Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Partners in Crime Speed Mooting Podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Hayley.
And today's episode is another fantastic episode of the podcast, or so
if we do say so ourselves.
We do say so ourselves. On today's episode, we've discussed a number of things. We started by discussing the upcoming National Speed Mooting Competition Autumn Cup, taking place on the 7th of September at BPP London Central.
We've also talked about some of the lovely comments we've received on our Spotify account, and we also answered some of your recent questions that we've received.
Legal Corner made a return to the podcast, and I discussed bad character evidence in criminal trials.
We had a good chat about commercial awareness, and we discussed the recent saga about the Baby Reindeer documentary.
And then we concluded by talking about what we have going on this week. So we hope you enjoyed the episode, and welcome to the podcast. We are live. Welcome to the Partners in Crime Speed Mooting Podcast. My name's John.
And I'm Hayley.
And welcome to episode 11.
I was going to say, I'd lost count. I was going to say, what number are we on?
Number 11.
11.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was number 10 last week, so I'm gonna go with number 11.
Are we going to keep it in chronological order, are we?
Yeah, let's keep going that way. Yeah,
okay.
Let's keep going up that way.
Sure.
We're not doing any of the Harry Potter stuff with the 10.3 quarters or any of that stuff.
Tell me where I might find platform 9 3/4.
9 3/4? Think you're being funny, do you?
Please tell me you purposely got that wrong. You did.
Yeah, I did.
I would have lost all faith in humanity.
Well, because we couldn't go back in time to do 9 3/4, could we? I mean, I'm saying we couldn't. I mean, I suppose there's nothing to stop that, but it'd be a bit weird, wouldn't it, to go 9, 10, and then 9 3/4.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
Out of sync, wouldn't it?
It would.
That would be our own thing. 10 and 2/3. Yeah.
Let's stick with number
let's
11.
Go with whole numbers. Number
yes.
11.
So we said you had to name this after a Liverpool player.
Okay.
And I had to guess who it was.
Okay.
And you said it was someone that everybody knows. Is the only clue I had.
Know. Everyone will know him. Do you want another clue?
Uh-huh.
The fans affectionately refer to him as an Egyptian king.
Oh, well, that scuppers my thing, because I was going to say Steven Gerrard. Is he current then?
He is current.
Okay. Oh, who do my nephews love? The only one I can think of is Mo Salah.
Mo Salah. It is.
That's him?
Number 11. I think he's number 11 anyway.
That'd be very embarrassing if he's not.
I don't know that much about football, to be fair, so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's number 11.
Well, we're going to say welcome to number 11, the Mo Salah special.
Well, hang on.
What?
We always name these episodes after Formula 1 drivers, so we need to get the Formula 1 driver reversed.
Okay, who's the Formula 1 driver?
Okay, do you want clues on this one?
Go for it.
Okay. He has number 11 on his car.
Funny that.
He's Mexican.
He's Mexican. Okay.
He wears yellow boots normally and yellow gloves.
Oh. Does he drive for Max Verstappen?
He certainly does.
Oh God, what's his name?
Sergio
Perez?
Sergio Perez.
Yes.
Indeed. So welcome to episode number 11, the Sergio Perez and Mo Salah edition.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
We promise this is a legal podcast, if you're just tuning in.
Yeah, this is something we do all the time, don't worry. We do talk about law and mooting and things of that nature, but we have to name our episodes first.
Yep.
So
speaking of mooting, shall we start with a big announcement?
Let's start with a big announcement. So you may have seen, or if you've been living under a rock and don't follow us on social media, you may not have seen.
I love how they're the two options. You either follow us or you live under a rock.
Well, what else do people do in their spare time? So if you don't follow us, you may not have seen, but if you do, you hopefully have seen. We've launched our next competition. It's in person. It's the Speed Mooting Autumn Cup. 7th of September, We're back in London, BPP, London Central.
Yes. So it's going to be the biggest, our mooting competitions always are the biggest single day mooting competitions in the UK.
Yeah.
So really prestigious, great on your CV, really fun to take part. Good little challenge as well. If you like a challenge, come along and join us. So sign up is live on our website now.
Yeah, speedmooting.com. So if you go on there, you'll find the link for the Autumn Cup 2024. So as we say, we're back at BPP London Central. Great venue. They hosted our first ever London-based competition last year. And we're back working with BPP again this year. So as Hayley says, up to 128 people can take part in the single day knockout competition. You'll get the bundle the night before, which includes everything, your case law, your legislation, pre-drafted skeleton arguments. So there's absolutely nothing for you to do in terms of research and drafting. It's simply read the bundle, formulate your arguments. And we ask you to prepare arguments for both appellant and respondent, because you won't know from one round to the next which side you're acting for. The winner of the competition will act for both sides a number of times throughout the day. It's a fun competition. You'll be judged by practitioners. So sign up today.
Yes. Funnily enough, you've just had a chat with Romeo, who was our national speed mooting champion from March 2024.
Yeah.
And this is an episode of our Conversations with Counsel podcast that we record and release periodically as well. So keep an eye out for that episode. And you were asking him, weren't you, about some of his highlights from his legal journey so far. And I loved that he said winning the National Speed Mooting Competition was one of, or
I think it was the highlight, wasn't it?
The
highlight of his legal journey. And understandably so. You know, he's just won a national competition. He's shown he is the best speed
It's
mover
a massive accolade to
country.
have, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of course it is. He's beaten all those other people in a single day competition. And, you know, it's going down really well. He's doing a lot of media off the back of it.
Yeah.
You know, Romeo he's from the Philippines originally, isn't he? And he's doing a lot of media out in the Philippines. He was even interviewed on a Las Vegas radio station.
That was so cool.
Which was so cool. So speed mooting has been mentioned on the radio in Vegas, which is crazy. But, you know, as we say, everyone listens to our podcast, so can't be that surprising that people are listening to us in Vegas.
No.
So that competition coming up. Very prestigious competition, fun competition, and we hope to see you there.
Yes. And if you want an opportunity to practice or learn more about mooting before then, we have a mooting course coming up, don't we, John? On the 19th of June.
Yeah.
So that's completely free, online. Anybody can sign up and ask John any questions about mooting.
Yeah.
And also, we have a speed mooting session coming up at Advocacy Club.
We certainly do.
This month. So perfect if you want to compete. Why not come along and practice beforehand?
Yeah, it's exactly the same format. You'll get all the papers in advance, which include, as I say, pre-drafted skeleton arguments, case law and legislation. For the Advocacy Club, we give you the papers 1 week in advance, so you have more time to prepare. But it's really about practicing in a low-pressure environment. So you'll practice with like-minded people. You get the opportunity to present your submissions. You'll receive feedback. And also, I'll deliver some feedback at the session as well for the group as a whole. So it's a good chance to get some practice in and hopefully receive some tips that will help you sharpen your skills ready for the competition in September.
Indeed.
Obviously, we're 11 episodes in now, Hayley, and we're starting to receive some comments on our episodes.
Yeah.
So I just want to read out some of the comments that we've had, because we've had some lovely comments so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've just accessing the comments here on Spotify on my phone. So we've got one comment here, episode 4. Great episode, enjoyed and learned a lot. Also enjoyed being a part of the Advocacy Club as well. So thank you very much for the comment.
Yeah.
And great to hear that you're learning so much from speaking to us, and also from being a member of the Advocacy Club. Another comment that we've had. Great episode, inspired by John's route into the law, being in a similar position where several years of pupillage rejection is making me seriously consider qualifying as a solicitor instead. Well, I mean, unfortunately, that's
a reality for a lot of people.
It's very, very difficult. Even somebody like myself really struggled to get into this profession and faced, no other word for a constant rejection, trying to obtain pupillage. And it's one of those. It's all about perseverance, trying to get in. If you have completed the bar course, there is a somewhat streamlined transition into the solicitor route. Not an easy route, but a streamlined route, in the sense that you'll be exempt from half of the LPC because some of the modules you will have covered on the bar course. It's understood that you will have covered advocacy, you'll be exempt from litigation, some of the options, etc. And of course, if you've been paralegaling for some time, that may well give you some form of reduction in relation to the training contract. I certainly received a reduction because of how many years I'd been paralegaling for. So it's certainly an option to make sure that you get qualified. I wouldn't say look at that as an easy or back route way into the barrister profession, because I've mentioned this before, it took me 11 years to get to the bar, so by no means was this a shortcut to get to the bar, but it's a route to get yourself qualified. And if you think that you will enjoy practice as a solicitor, which I've talked about before, I did enjoy my time as a solicitor, it's certainly something to think about. So
definitely. And it's not as the roles between barrister and solicitor, they're not black and white.
No.
There's a lot more. We're seeing a lot more firms emerging now that have got their own in-house advocacy teams with advocates, with barristers as well. Mitchell have got their own advocacy team. Brown Jacobson do. DWF do. So that's definitely something that's emerging. So if you love advocacy, but you also think you'd really enjoy life as a solicitor, then you can explore those routes. The bar isn't the only place where there's opportunities for advocacy anymore.
No, and there's huge benefits to it, because if you're a solicitor working in a firm, you've got a salary, you've got holiday pay, you've got a pension, so there's a lot there. You've got that structure, and a lot of those benefits there that go with being employed by a firm. So it's certainly something to think about.
But don't let that put you off. If you absolutely have aspirations to go to the bar and that's what you love, just persevere and you will get there.
Yeah. And if you think that you're going to enjoy that time as a solicitor, it's a good way to build up your experience
and connections
and your connections. And that certainly helped me, because I built up good connections whilst I was a solicitor. Previous firms that I've worked for instruct me, and also I think just the client care skills that I've built through constantly speaking to clients, because you've got much more regular client contact, understanding the pressures that solicitors face, and making sure that as soon as I'm out of court, I'll ring them with an update, and being able to work quite closely in conjunction with the solicitor throughout the course of the case has really helped me. And also the regular advocacy that I was performing as a solicitor naturally fed into my time as a barrister. So
that's a really good point, because you were a solicitor yourself. You know exactly what a solicitor needs from their barrister. So I bet all your clients are very happy with you.
I think they are. So I think we've got another comment here as well. Great episode, John and Hayley. Really enjoyed learning about your journeys and insights, and the little Formula One references. Keep them coming. Well, once again,
I was glad to hear you like the Formula One references, because I don't think John could stop those even if he wanted to.
No. I think it's Hayley has to rein me in each and every week. So if you want more Formula One content, let us know. I'll be happy to talk even more about Formula One on these podcasts.
You have to start a segment all about Formula One.
So but thank you very much for the comments.
Yeah, we love to see them, and we're doing this every single week for you guys, so it's really good to see that it's well received and it is useful and you're enjoying the content we put out there. So if you can, take 2 minutes to drop us a comment, a like, subscribe. It just gives us the motivation to keep doing this.
It certainly does. Let's see if we can set a record. Let's see if episode 11 can garner the most comments that we've ever had on a single episode.
Okay.
So help us break our record.
Yeah, I mean, I've already set a challenge for YouTube subscribers, because last month we got 98 new subscribers. So this month we're going for the 100.
We're going for the 100. Someone's enjoying our content.
Indeed, yes.
So don't worry, there's a lot more coming. But I nearly referred to our listeners by name, and we were talking about this, weren't we, Hayley? So we do have a name for our community.
Yep, they are the Speed Squad.
And individually we have a name, and we can thank Ben Rose for this one.
We can.
Shout out to Ben Rose for this. So obviously our
the community is the Speed Squad.
Community is the Speed Squad, but individually we'll refer to you as smooters.
Smooters.
Which is a combination of speed and mooting, or speed and mooter, so
Yep.
smooters. So that was
I don't know if you needed to explain that, John. I think most people will have got it.
Yeah, maybe. It is pretty self-explanatory, isn't it?
But thanks.
Yeah. So thanks to the smooters out there.
Yep.
Keep
So
the comments coming.
you are a smooter and you are a member of the Speed Squad.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, I think we've had some questions coming through as well.
Yes, yeah. So while we're on the subject of comments, move on to questions. So I've got a couple here. So first one, bit of a long one. So strap in, John. I am aware that at the onset of your journey to the criminal bar, one would make little or unsatisfactory earnings. But my passion and admiration for the criminal bar refutes this. So why did you, I'm assuming this was a question for you, John, why did you pursue the criminal bar as opposed to other sectors such as civil or corporate? And what is your driving motivation?
Wow, okay, long one there. I mean, why did I pursue the criminal bar? It's something I'm interested in. You know, I thoroughly enjoy criminal law. I enjoyed the study of criminal law. And what I like about criminal law is the focus on advocacy. So whereas with other areas of law, you'll find there's you know, sometimes particularly you'll know more about this, Hayley, more of an emphasis on written advocacy, you know, in relation to, you know, a lot of your civil claims. I imagine, you know, you've got extensive skeleton arguments that you draft prior to trial.
Yeah,
you've got to draft
definitely.
pleadings and things of that nature.
And a lot of it is advisory work, so we'll instruct our barristers all the time just to give us written advice before we ever step anywhere near a courtroom.
Yeah. So you probably find, you know, in the civil world, that probably barristers have a number of days during the week, a number of days during the month, where they're at home drafting advices, drafting pleadings, whatever it might be. So there's that mix there. Whereas as a criminal barrister, we're in court pretty much every day. You know, the real focus for us is oral advocacy in the courtroom. Don't get me wrong, there is a bit of drafting involved. So, you know, we need to draft defence statements. They're compulsory in the Crown Court. So every Crown Court trial we have to draft a defence statement. Occasionally in the Magistrates Court, if we're dealing with Magistrates Court trials. Sometimes you might have to draft a skeleton argument in relation to certain applications, things of that nature. But as a general rule, the focus is much more fly by the seat of your pants, oral advocacy.
Yeah.
So that's really what attracted me. And I think also just in terms of the way that advocacy is dealt with as well. So, for example, in a criminal trial, when a witness goes in the witness box, all of their evidence in chief is live. You know, say for certain exceptions where somebody gives an ABE interview or something of that nature, but as a general rule, most witnesses give their evidence live, whereas in civil courts, statements are drafted, they'll go in the witness box. Is this your witness statement? Yes. On to cross-examination. So, you know, you've got much more of an emphasis on the advocacy there. And what I really like as well is with a jury trial, you know, let's not forget that, you know, the nature of what we're dealing with is very serious, sometimes very poignant, sometimes quite often sad. But looking beyond that, the actual advocacy itself is, for want of a better way, quite fun.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing like the thrill of a jury speech at the end of a trial. Cross-examination is, you know, quite a challenge that I enjoy as well. So I think, you know, to answer your question, what's drawn me to criminal law is the challenge of it and the style of the advocacy that's involved. Dealing with your question regarding funds. Now, if you find at the outset that you're doing a lot of legal aid stuff in the magistrates court, then of course, you know, you're not going to be earning much money at all. And that may well be how many people start off in criminal law. I was quite fortunate in that I've been able to skip that step because I did a lot of defence criminal advocacy where I was employed on a salary working for a firm. So the actual fee case by case didn't affect me because I was on a salary anyway. I then moved to the CPS where once again I was on a salary, and then I moved to the criminal bar, having worked in criminal law for, you know, a long time. I already had a bit of a track record there, and I've jumped in at a point whereby I've been able to deal with slightly more serious cases whereby I'm dealing with trials, and obviously trial fees in the Crown Court are not too bad. You know, not to sound crass about it, but you know the money is not bad. And of course, I do a lot of privately funded work as well, where obviously you don't have the worry about legal aid rates not being great on certain types of hearings. So obviously you might have a struggle at the start, and that was a bit of a worry for me because I didn't know how busy I was going to be at the start. Thankfully, I've come to the criminal bar at a time when it's been really, really busy. But I think it's a matter really of stick it out. Once you do a few of these cases, once you start to build relationships with solicitors, hopefully you'll start to bring that work in.
Yeah.
And if you can build up a diet of fairly regular Crown Court trials, then you should be okay.
Yeah.
You can make a living at the criminal bar, and quite a good living. Don't get me wrong. I was asked about this on a podcast recently. You're not going to be driving a Lamborghini or anything like that.
Unless you save up for a long time.
Unless you save up, there's nothing to stop that. You save up for a couple of years and you never know. But the point is, I think that you see two different things in the media, don't you? You see the kind of people talking about criminal barristers consistently earning below the minimum wage, which is probably not entirely accurate. There are going to be cases where you might be on a really poor fee for a mention hearing, and you find you've had to put loads of hours in on that one case. You have to do a lot of drafting. You're doing a lot of waiting around. There's been a lot of travel for court. So when you break it down hour by hour on that one particular hearing, yes, you may have earned less than the minimum wage. But that's not the reality every day, because people just couldn't sustain life at the criminal bar if that was the reality. And likewise, the newspapers paint us out as fat cats that live in Surrey houses, driving Rolls Royces and what have you. That isn't the reality. The reality is somewhere in between. And, the point is, a lot of the sort of interim hearings are quite poorly paid, but trials are not bad. So if you ensure that you've got a decent diet of Crown Court trials there, you'll be okay and you'll make a reasonable living at the criminal bar. Yeah. But I think that the point is, it's about getting to that stage and getting to the point whereby you've built those relationships with solicitors, so that stream of work starts to come in.
Definitely.
And I think how it starts in probably a lot of chambers is, you'll get the odd return. And a return is, you've got a more senior member of chambers, they've gone parted on something else, they were booked in for a trial, they can't do it. It slowly works its way down the ladder, and hopefully you pick up the odd case like that, do a good job for the solicitor, they like you. Oh, do you know what? We've got another case, do you fancy this one? Yeah. And then it kind of snowballs from there.
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked about the importance of networking and building connections before, haven't we? So as a junior, even as a law student, you can be out there meeting people, meeting solicitors. And then when it's time for you to get instructed, they already know you, they think about you by name, they think about you quite highly. Yeah. So you could start getting the little cases first, and then they'll grow, and before you know it, you'll be doing the multiple trials for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the other thing as well is, criminal law isn't all legal aid. There are firms out there that do, privately funded motoring cases, and also general crime in the Crown Court on a private basis as well. So, there's always that option as well. Obviously, legal aid forms a large chunk of criminal practice for most people. Yeah. But there's also options for you to be paid on a private basis for certain criminal cases too.
Yeah. I think a good way just to summarise is, money is obviously, it's important. You need to plan things well and make sure you can sustain perhaps not being so well paid at first. Yeah. Know that it's going to be worth it once you break it and you are doing the trials. But ultimately, you can't just follow the money either. So if you love criminal law and that's what you want to do, but you think, oh, I'll go do civil because it's going to be paid better, give it a couple of years and you won't be happy because you're not doing what you love and your passion doesn't lie there. So you can't just follow money.
And that is the reality of it. Ultimately, if you follow the money, that's how you get burnout, that's how you'll get bored, and you won't progress as far. Yeah. Whereas you do something that you're passionate about, you'll pick up the skills much more quickly, you'll advance much more quickly, and naturally the money will follow, hopefully. But that can't be your driving factor, because if you're just following the money, it's a recipe for disaster.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Any other questions, Hayley?
Yes. First, I'm going to plug my laptop in before it dies. Tech at its finest. Okay, so this is a nice question, and I suppose lots of things we can talk about this because it's quite open. How to grow your confidence?
Okay. Wow. That's an interesting
So
one.
maybe we'll talk about it first in a general sense, and then we can talk about it more focused on advocacy and mooting, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, it's something that a lot of people struggle with. Confidence. I certainly did when I first started university.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you still do, and I mean, I'm not saying you as in you personally, you as in everybody. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Like, people might see us on this podcast every week and think, wow, look how confident they are. But there's other areas. If someone said to me now, right, Hayley, go and present in front of 1,000 people, I would be very, very nervous. Let's keep it PG.
But I mean, the podcast is a good example there. So, you think about it, we're in a bit of a flow now. We're doing this well. Episode 1 was a bit stagnated. We were a bit worried about it. We'd never done it before. And I suppose that, in a way, is a bit of a lack of confidence in what we're doing. And it's only through having done several episodes that we've built up those skills and we feel much more, quote unquote, confident in what we're doing. So I think it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, but most things in life where you're nervous about something or you're unconfident, it's just because you've not done that thing before.
Yeah.
And the reality is, with most things, always think, what's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, so, and once you get past that, once you think, okay, what's the worst that can happen? You go, you know what, I'm going to try this thing. Fail at it a few times, then you improve. So, years ago, I used to go to lots of, junior lawyers events and things like that. And most people tended to go with other people from their firm. So, you're there with a few people, whatever. I didn't really know anyone that was interested in attending these events, but I always wanted to network. I thought, you know what, I'll go on my own. And people used to say, you're on your own. Can't believe you're doing that. I was like, well, why not? What's the worst that happens? You turn up to these events, you see a group, go and chat to them. What's the worst they do? They tell you to, for want of a better phrase, go away. Fine, you've not lost anything. So it's always, I think my mindset with most things is, what's the worst that can happen? Think about that worst case scenario. If you're confident with the worst case scenario, go and try something.
Yeah.
And as a general rule, most times where people lack confidence, it's because you're asking for something. It might be about approaching firms, trying to get work experience, going to these networking events. Might be about, going into interviews. Once you've done things a few times, once you've been rejected, once you've been knocked back, you go, all right, yeah, I've experienced that. It wasn't nice, but I'm still standing, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
You can crack on and go from there.
Yeah. And I think another way just to grow your confidence, just building on what you're saying, John, is just to take things one step at a time, like baby steps. What just popped into my mind while we were speaking about this is tennis.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, probably most people won't know, John's brother is a tennis coach in Liverpool.
Coach Alan from Target, I'm here. And thanks for joining us for this week's video.
And he runs weekend classes for people to play tennis. And I've never played tennis in my life, never even picked up a tennis racket. So I go along and see all these people playing amazing tennis. And it's like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not confident in playing tennis. But then you go back again and again and again, and you just do tiny little baby steps. So today, I'm just going to learn how to hold a racket. Okay, now I can hold a racket. Now I'm going to learn how to hit a ball. Okay, now I'm going to learn how to hit a ball straight. And before you know it, after doing it for weeks and weeks and weeks, you think, oh, you know what? I am quite confident to play tennis.
Yeah.
Still rubbish, but more confident at playing tennis now. And, public speaking can be very similar. So you think, gosh, I can't get up and deliver a presentation to hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah. Well, just take a step back. Today just think, I'm just going to speak up in class. I'm going to speak to 10 people. I'm going to speak to 20 people. I'm going to not just give a one-word answer. I'm going to deliver a longer answer. And before you know it, your confidence will just build up in little steps.
Yeah.
And one day you will find that, gosh, yeah, I am confident to do this.
You've hit the nail on the head there, yeah.
That was a good little analogy.
I like that. I like the analogy there. If anyone's curious and wants to follow him online, it's @TargetSlam. If anyone wants to follow Alan's channel.
He's got a good YouTube channel as well.
He's got a good YouTube channel.
It runs in the family.
Yeah, he's beating us on followers, I think, so...
oh, we can't have that.
Can't have that. But I mean, that's absolutely it, isn't it, Hayley? It's all about just whatever you try it in baby steps. Because you try and learn too much too quickly, and that's how you fail, and that's when your confidence gets knocked, isn't it? So whatever you're doing, just try it in little baby steps, and you'll improve from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I like that answer.
Boom. So we've got a little continuous segment running on these podcasts now, which people seem to like, and it's a little insight into a piece of the law. So we've done some criminal, we've done some civil. So I think today you've got a good criminal one to talk about, John.
So I've been talking recently about a variety of different legal topics related to crime. I think most of them have been sort of sentencing based, the good year indication, the Newton hearing. So I thought I'd talk about something that might come up during a live trial. So I'm going to talk a little bit about bad character today. So this is something that you probably study during your postgraduate studies. So when you get to bar course, LPC, SQE, etc. Now, when you have a trial, whomever your tribunal is, whether it's a jury or in the magistrates' court, if you have a district judge or a bench of magistrates, they shouldn't really know about any previous convictions that the defendant on trial has. So even if they've got a huge stream of convictions, they shouldn't know about any of those convictions. Now, sometimes it might be the case that the prosecution want to refer to those previous convictions for one reason or another. So they can make what's called a bad character application. And this is governed by Section 101 of the Criminal Justice Act. And it sets out a number of different gateways through which the prosecution can seek to rely upon the previous convictions. So what the prosecutor would do is, in advance of the trial, would normally serve what's called a bad character notice. So it's a written application setting out why they think they're entitled in law to bring these up. The defence would normally serve a written response, and then you tend to have, although the criminal procedure rules could allow for this to be decided on the papers, normally you would have an oral argument about whether the bad character evidence is admissible. Now, within the Section 101, there's a number of gateways. The most common one that's relied upon is propensity. So what the prosecutor will be saying is that given that this person has committed the same offence before or similar offences before, this shows that that individual has a propensity to commit these types of offences, and therefore it makes it more likely that they're going to commit the same offences again. And of course the defence would seek to oppose that, either on the basis that the criminal convictions are limited in nature, and they were so far in the past that they ought not to show that there is a propensity there. There's a number of different ways that can be challenged, and the leading case that interprets that statutory provision is the case of Crown and Hanson from 2005. Or the other falls within the same gateway D, but the other argument that the prosecution may seek to argue is that the offence has to do, or previous convictions have to do, with the offence. So a number of different ways there. And also sometimes it might be the case that the defendant themselves brings their own bad character in.
I've heard you talk about this.
Yeah.
This is usually when they say something they shouldn't in the witness box.
So they might give an impression, so, oh, do you know what, I'm a great guy, I've never been in trouble in my life. Lo and behold, they've got a massive string of convictions, and in which case then you go through the gateway of having to correct a false impression given by the defendant. Now, of course, it's not just the defendants who can have their bad character introduced. You can have non-defendants' bad character introduced. The number of gateways are much more limited, but sometimes it could be to do with the credibility of that witness. So it could be that you've got a witness that's going to give evidence at trial, but they've got 10 previous convictions for fraud. So you'd say, well, this person has a propensity to be dishonest, so you'd seek to bring their bad character in, and to the same sort of thing, you'd have an argument about whether or not the bad character is admissible.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, it's just something I thought I would mention as part of our legal corner.
Yeah, very good one, John.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, we do a mock trial, don't we, as part of the Advocacy Club? And I've played the part of the witness before today, the little old disgruntled lady neighbour. And she has a couple of dishonesty offences, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I think that always gets brought in as bad character.
Yeah. So you're there on the fly trying to make up
what I did,
what the previous fraud convictions were for. Or fraud and a shop theft, wasn't it, if I remember
I think
rightly?
so, yeah. Something like that. I know she had 2.
Yeah.
That's weird. When's that one coming up? Is it? I want to say it's August.
I think it is, yeah, because it will be, because July we're doing the opening speech, and then witness handling will be August.
Oh, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah,
It's always a
fun
really good
Yeah.
one. Perfect. So I think the next thing we were going to talk about, which we've talked about a lot, is commercial awareness. So
Yeah.
I don't think we need to go into again what commercial awareness is, unless
No,
you just...
We've mentioned it a million times before, haven't we?
Yeah, but what we always say is, you know, in its simplest form, it's just about being aware of what's happening and realising, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if that's going to affect the legal industry, and just having a bit of a think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So something that has kicked off this week, I think, is the Baby Reindeer documentary on Netflix. So I know you haven't watched it, John.
Nope.
It's really good, so everybody should watch it. It's essentially a story about a male being stalked by a female over a series of years, and the documentary says at the start, this is a true story. And although they didn't name the alleged stalker, internet inspectors found her very quickly and found her on Twitter, etc. So the woman, Fiona, she's came out now. She's had an interview on Piers Morgan, and most recently she's now suing Netflix for making this show. So I think she's suing them for defamation, gross negligence, and she's suing them for sums around, I think it's £170,000.
Right.
So this is what everybody's talking about right now. So if you're thinking about going for interviews, etc., if you're interested in defamation law, media law, etc., this is just something for you to be aware of, because it's happening right now. I think it's important to note she's bringing the claim in California.
Right.
So it's not UK law. However, obviously Netflix is worldwide. So whatever happens, it's probably going to be some knock-on effect everywhere, including the UK.
Yeah.
And I think the crux of the case, and I'm not a defamation lawyer, so don't quote me on this, but if we do have any defamation lawyers watching, I'd love you to comment and share your wisdom with us. But I think the crux of the case is going to be because they said it's a true story, rather than based on a true story, or this story is based on true events, etc. Because they've said it is true, it looks like there is going to be a claim heard.
That's interesting.
So very, very interesting.
Yeah. I remember because we covered defamation, so both libel and slander within tort. Mm-hmm. So something we will have covered in second year. And if I remember rightly, I think that claims for libel and slander are the only cases outside of criminal law in the UK where we have juries.
But I was reading an article earlier, and I think it was saying, I think you made this comment as well, it's quite clever that it's being brought in California, because apparently the compensation rules are very, very different to ours. Because
in California, as far as I'm aware, I think it's the jury that determine compensation rather than a judge. So that's why you see these super huge settlements in US cases, because it's juries that dictate the settlement amounts.
Yeah. Well, there we go. That's just one example that we've spotted the last few days that's got us talking. So you can bet your bottom dollar if you're interested in media law or defamation law, etc., and you go for an interview. If you went for an interview tomorrow, they'd probably ask you about this case, because it's what's all over the headlines. So it's just about being aware of things that are happening, and that's one of them.
I wonder if she's going to use Johnny Depp's lawyer.
I wonder.
That was a defamation case, wasn't it?
Yeah,
She's
pretty
got a bit of a reputation now, hasn't she? So who knows?
Yeah. Oh, that was such an amazing case. I wonder if this case will go on television as well.
I mean, they'll have cameras in the courtroom out there, don't they? So there's probably no reason why not.
We'll all be tuning into that, won't we?
Yeah. Interesting.
Interesting indeed.
Yeah.
Well, that's our little commercial awareness corner part for you.
We haven't really talked about this the past few weeks, but on previous episodes we discussed our weeks and just how busy we'd been.
Yeah, I think we've probably been too busy to talk about how busy we've been.
Yeah, I think so. This has been a semi-busy week for me, so it's Wednesday now. I've covered a fair few 100 miles this week, haven't I, going to and from court?
Yep.
I don't mind it. I enjoy it. It means I go to a different court every single day. You don't get bored of the same scenery, so...
I think you were out of bed at like 5:30 this morning?
5:30 this morning, yeah.
Bye, John.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was up nice and early, and it's been like that. Well, actually, to be fair, I've had afternoon hearings on Monday and Tuesday, so I've not had to be up at the crack of dawn. But still, covered a fair few miles this week. So
you enjoy it though, don't you?
Oh yeah, I like it. I must have done probably about 700 miles this week so far, and we're on Wednesday.
Nice.
Yeah.
But other than work, we've got a fair few bits on, haven't we?
Beyond that, we've got a fair few things. So tonight, it's Liverpool Speakers Club.
Yep. Have you got a speech prepared?
No, not tonight. We're doing something interesting. We're doing a team speaking challenge game. So to give the example, so it's Dave that's come up with this idea. And
Dave is the educational secretary at Liverpool Speakers Club.
Yeah.
Give him a shout. David Bolt.
Shout out. He saw this at Nationals, and the way he saw it done was with 4 people, and they had 4 words. And the idea, the way they did the speech, they did it quite cleverly. They framed it as a trial, and they put 1980s fashion on trial. So you had kind of someone who played basically a prosecutor who did a bit of a speech, someone who played, I think, probably the defendant who did a speech, somebody played the defence counsel doing a bit of a speech, and then, I know it's obviously not how a proper trial runs.
It doesn't matter, it's fun.
And then somebody who played a judge doing a speech, so you can see how it's 4 different speeches, and somehow they linked whatever the 4 words were together, and it was all about...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's tonight.
That's tonight. Tomorrow I will be speaking to the Unbarred community. So thank you, Unbarred, for inviting me to speak. I understand that they've shared a few posts about it, and there's a Zoom link, isn't there? So I think anyone's welcome as far as I'm aware. So check out Unbarred on LinkedIn. I realise I'm talking about this, and by the time this goes live, the event will have been on. So actually, I'll backtrack because you won't be able to join, because unless you've got a flux capacitor, unfortunately you won't be able to.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
But you can join future events with Unbarred.
But you can join future events. They run their events fairly regularly, and they tend to get practicing barristers, I think, to speak at their events. So I'm sure you'll see future events whereby they'll have other barristers. I'm sure they'll all be great events. But I'm really looking forward to speaking to Unbarred tomorrow. And then taking the car out for its first good run on Saturday, aren't we?
Yeah. We got a new. It's old, but it's new to us. We got a new car at the weekend, didn't we?
Didn't we?
I'm in love. So it's a little red Audi TT.
Yeah.
So I always wanted an Audi TT, but can be a bit hopeless with cars. So I remember when my Clio died a death on the motorway many years ago, the recovery man that came to rescue me was like, "Oh, so what car are you going to get?" Because we established that the Clio had died a death and needed to be given to the scrap heap. "What car are you going to get next?" I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go get myself a TT, an Audi TT." And he was like, No, you're not. He's like, "Do you service your cars?" "No." "Do you look after your cars?" "Not really." How often do you check the tyres?" No. No Audi TT for you. Go and get yourself something reliable. Go and get yourself something like a Ford Fiesta. So I did. And then I had that Ford Fiesta from 2017. But I thought, 2024, time for a little upgrade.
Yeah.
John is big on his cars, so he can look after it for me.
Yeah, thankfully I get it serviced a couple of times a year. Regularly, we always make sure that there's fresh rubber on there, the tyres are properly inflated. So it's actually going to be...
So we're very, very happy with our beautiful new TT. And so, we're taking it for a drive to...
We've got to see a few friends, aren't we?
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're keeping that location secret.
I can't remember where they live. I'll put it in the sat nav and we'll get there, you know.
Sunday's Father's Day, so I imagine we'll have to do something with our
Respective fathers, yeah.
I went to say retrospective again.
Yeah.
We have this joke because I always say retrospective instead of respective. But there we go.
There we are.
We'll be doing something for Father's Day.
Father's Day,
So all you fathers out there, we hope you enjoy Father's Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and it's Alan's birthday on Friday as well, so no doubt we'll do something there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Alan is the
Brother of John.
I was trying to think of a way to say retrospective correctly. Who we were speaking about retrospectively on this podcast.
Ish. Yeah.
Ish.
So,
well, when this podcast is released then, it will be Alan's birthday.
Yeah, released on Alan's birthday. Alan,
Happy birthday!
So that brings us to the end of episode 11. We hope you've enjoyed the episode. We hope you are still enjoying them. If you're not already, please feel free to click that follow or subscribe button. And until next time.
Bye.